You need my, oh, you have your flag behind you?
Yeah, I'm
Are you
like,
okay.
All right, and we are good to go.
okay, great. Let's start the meeting and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I think let's just give people a couple minutes to get on. It looks like people are still, do you agree, Sue?
Yeah, we have a couple people joining now.
Yeah, let's let them join.
Yep, few.
And then what we'll do is I'm going to ask Greg, I think he's done this before, so he can do it without any prompts. He's only done this like 6 times, to give us a quick presentation. And then we'll look at the assessment sheets that we had looked at and agreed on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here we go. We get to.
Yep.
So Dan has my presentation, Steve. Whenever you're ready, just give Dan the word.
Will do. Let's just give it a minute.
Yep.
Looks like we maybe have 4
Good.
from the community. If I'm looking at this right.
Yeah, that looks right. Okay, it's 7:05. I think we should start. You want to go ahead, Greg? Dan, can you bring up Greg's presentation?
Okay, thank you, Steve. So this is an update on a presentation I made, I know, to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance over the past couple of months, and there is some new information here. So I'll go through this briefly or quickly, and then you can ask questions. So I'll be talking about the timeline, the history of this project, the boundary limits for the water main, and then a map, an overall map, and then the preliminary plan that we are now in the design phase of. Then I'll point to a request for service that we made of Aquarion and their approval for that water service. And then for those residents who choose to tie into this main, there are 2 important documents, I think at least 2, that they should understand. One is called a limited service agreement, and the other is going to be information on the water rates that they'll have to they're responsible for. And then I'll finish with the next steps on this project. Okay, so Dan, next page, please. And if you can shrink that down to get the whole thing on one page. This whole project started back in June of 2017 when a resident on Candlewood Lake Road called the Department of Public Health saying they had a bad taste in their well water. And we started doing some testing. All the way up to July of 2019, we did a bunch more testing. And then Dr. Sullivan in the spring of 2019 found an ability for us to apply for the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund through the Department of Public Health. And we submitted that application. They confirmed our eligibility. We started meeting with the utility companies to scope the different options. We hired a consultant to complete a very detailed preliminary engineering report. I think it was like something like 60 or 70 pages. We submitted that to the Department of Public Health. They approved it eventually. And in November, the Board of Finance approved the funding for this project. Our engineers started the design work, and some additional testing for water has been done, and Steve kind of led that effort. And here we are in December with a completed, I'll call it preliminary design. So we've been moving in a rather rapid phase over the past several months. A little bit about the project scope. The water main is going to tie in at Nabby Road, which that main ends right now at the entrance of Townbrook Commons Apartments. It's going to run east all the way from Nabby Road to Candlewood Lake Road, then up the northbound lane and terminate at 99 Candlewood Lake Road. The reason why it's going to terminate there, that is the northernmost point that from the sampling work we've done, that the water results came back either failing or near failing. That driveway happens to be right across the street from the existing driveway into Huckleberry Hill School, which has also had high sodium and chloride levels. So that's going to be where the main terminates. That whole frontage is about 3,200 or 3,300 linear feet, and there are 30 properties that will affront that main. And this work will be done in conjunction with the school project, who's putting in a gas line from that area similar to that starting location, but also in the northbound lane up Candlewood Lake Road. Where their gas line terminates, I do not know. That is part of the school's project team to decide. So that's the timeline and the project scope. If there's no questions, I'll go to the next page. So this is a very high level view of 2 dots on this map. The lower dot is at Nabby Road at those apartments I mentioned. And the upper dot is at 99 Candlewood Lake Road. So there's our 3,300 feet or so of 12-inch water main, where it's going to start and where it's going to end. Next page. I know you cannot read this. It's really meant just to illustrate. This is the level of detail we are now in with our engineering work. I have a full-size print of this sheet, and if anybody wants to come by and take a look at it, I'm welcome to do that, or I can email them this PDF. Again, I don't expect you to read all the detail, but this is a level of design we are now into. We've identified the town's right-of-way lines. We've identified the existing sewer line that runs on the other side of the road, and we've identified utility poles and all the road crossings for the storm drain lines. So we're diligently working on a detailed design package, and there is a 1-page summary of what our preliminary design looks like. Next page. This is the letter way back in March that we received from Aquarian Water that confirms our request for service. And their response to us does mention that water main, as I just mentioned, and the fact that the pressure is going to be 20 PSI at a fire flow rate of 720 gallons per minute. And that's pressure is important to know, because that's not enough pressure to provide enough water service to a typical residence. So that's all this system can provide, and this letter is just confirming that. Now, if you read this letter carefully, you'll see where it talks about more than 30 properties tying into the main. The reason why it says that is back in March, we didn't know where we were going to get the tie-in point. We thought it was going to be further south than Nabby Road. We thought we might have to go further north than 99 Candlewood Lake Road. So when we were scoping this project back in March, we thought it might have included more properties, but as I just said, it does not. It's only 30 properties. So that's our letter from Aquarian confirming pressure and water availability that they're going to hold for us with this project. Next page. This is a 3-page limited service agreement. And for any of the 30 residents who decide to tie into the main, and the project is going to pay for that tie-in all the way into your home, you're going to need to sign a limited service agreement. And the reason why Aquarian requires this is because of the low pressure. It's talked about in the middle of this agreement. And what you're signing off is an agreement that you understand the limit of what they're going to provide. But we recognize that, and we have put in our project the cost for a booster pump at every one of the 30 or every one of the homes will be tying in and covered by this project. So for the residents that are on this call, you can look at that 3-page limited service agreement, and it must be signed. Maybe Dan, you can go to the second page. These are all just the witnesses and the signatures, and there's a 3rd page. And that's something that's going to need to be done. As Steve will talk about, and I'll just hit it briefly, only those residents who have the failing water or near failing chloride, and or sodium levels will be covered by the cost of this project. If anybody beyond that with, let's say, very good water or water that's nowhere near failing, if they decide to tie in, they will have to do that on their own. Next page, Dan. This is a page off Aquarion's website, and I encourage every property owner to go to it. It's aquarionwater.com. And when you click on there, go to the Connecticut section, and it lists the water rates for Brookfield. I think it's worth reading so you understand that after your water main is in service, what your typical monthly utility or water bill will look like. And you can go to their website and you can read all about that on your own. I will tell you, based on averages, if we assume a 1-inch line into your home, an average water consumption, assuming 2.7 people in a typical household, your average monthly water bill with all those assumptions will be something like $60, $50 to $60 a month. So that's just a little heads up for you. And again, I encourage you to go to the website and call Aquarion and understand that as best as you can. Next page, which is my last page. These are next steps. I will be attending the wetlands meeting on January 11th. Because this water main goes over the floodplain, we're going to need a wetlands permit. I'm not exactly sure how much work I have to do to get that, but I will be at their January 11th meeting. And we're asking all residents, all 30 of them, to please let us know if they're going to commit to tying into the main to have water supplied to their homes. We need that information to finish our design. So we're kind of setting I'll call it an arbitrary deadline of January 22nd, which is only a month away, to make a decision and let us know which way you'd like to go. We could not submit a design package for approval until we know exactly how many residents are going to be tying in. And then later in January, our project team will meet with the school's project team regarding the gas line to coordinate construction and contract plans, because we do want to minimize disruption on Candlewood Lake Road next summer and plan these two mains as most cost effectively and as quickly as possible. We'd like to complete the design in February. We need to submit our design to the Department of Public Health. They must approve it before we are allowed to go out to bid. I hope we can go out to bid in April. We hope to get approval of the lowest qualified bidder by the Department of Public Health in May. We'll sign contracts. We need to start construction by July, so we finish it by November. So that's kind of our timeline. I'm happy to take any questions.
I've got a question. This is Anna Gloster-Ferry of 84 Candlewood Lake Road. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello. I'm Anna Gloster-Ferry of 84 Candlewood Lake Road. My water is fine, so I won't need to hook up. But you had said at the last meeting that I'd still be responsible for $264 a year anyway.
That is correct. The law states that everyone along the line will be assessed for the improvement, and it's according to a ratio. Dan, I'm going to try to connect let's look this up. Okay. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay, let me see if I got my PDF. Hold on one second. Yeah, this is a little better. So there are, Dan, I don't know how to make this smaller.
If you're trying to zoom out at the bottom right of your screen, we get the little plus minus 100%
Plus minus, bottom right of my screen?
of Excel, yes.
I'm not in Excel, I'm in PDF.
Well,
Oh, the screen we see shared is your Excel.
Yeah, I just changed that because the PDF's bigger. Oh, here, wait a minute, let me go view. Sorry, bear with me, I'm not view full screen, right? Full screen mode. And, oh, there we go. How's that? Can everybody see that?
We're still seeing your Excel. I'm going to stop your Excel sharing so you can reshare the PDF.
Okay. Ah. Where's my key?
Excuse me, would that be the only amount I would be assessed, or do I also have to pay $1,100?
No, so you would pay if you do not want to hook up to the water line. What number?
Yeah, my
are you?
water's fine.
Yeah,
It's like
you're number
19 out of, yeah.
Yeah, you're 84 Candlewood Lake Road. So
Right.
you would be assessed $261.64 a year, but that would be your
Okay.
only expense. If you
Okay.
chose to hook up in the future, you'd have to pay for the hookup and then obviously for the water. So we've been through this and gone over this assessment, and we've tried to make it as fair as possible. And if you look down here on the very bottom line, where it says on the 30th line, Town of Brookfield, the Town of Brookfield is absorbing 92% of the cost of this line, as we are going to be using the most water in the new school and the existing school. So the residents, the other residents and property owners will be paying 8% of the cost. And these are the costs. It goes from 150 or so up to 400 for a property with 11 acres. If you look at the lines that are highlighted in orange, those are properties that have levels of salt and chlorides that exceed the limits. And in the second to the last column, you'll see at the top, it says affected wells. And that's how much you would pay for the hookup. Now, it should be understood that this hookup, we're making an estimate that it will be about $8,000 per house, and the town will absorb 50% of that cost.
And that's over a 20-year period, right?
Correct, Anna. Correct. That's what you would pay per year for 20 years if you qualify. But between the loan forgiveness of 25% and the town's paying 50%, this is what you would end up paying per year for the hookup. Now, it will change per house. If you're a little further from the line, you'll pay a little bit more. If you're a little closer, you might pay a little bit less. But this is
And I know I have like 300 feet on Candlewood Lake Road, so I'm probably paying more than someone that only has 150 feet on
Yes,
Candlewood Lake Road.
Yeah, there are 4 factors, Anna. It's your acreage, right? Your total frontage, the number of dwelling units, which everybody has 1 except for the school. The school's 25 almost, and the assessed value. Those are the 4 factors. So if you do have more frontage, you do pay a little bit more. If you do have more acreage, you pay a little bit more, right?
I have a question about the gas. Now, I have propane, which I'm very happy with.
Right.
I wouldn't have to be forced to, would I have to pay a hookup for that regardless?
No. If you want to hook up to the gas, you can do it in the future. It would be at your cost, but there's no initial cost that I'm aware of. Greg, you're not aware of any initial costs, are you?
Steve, I'm not involved at all with the gas project. I think those questions, I'm happy to take that question, but I don't know how the school project is planning the main project with Aquarian. I'm sorry, with Eversource. I'm sorry, I just don't know.
No, I don't believe so, Anna. Otherwise, they would have come to us and we'd be doing this exact same process, but we'll double check that.
Okay, I just wanted to know because I just switched my propane to the same people that Casey that do my oil, and I've been very happy with it.
Yeah, Yeah, they're good. So no, we're talking about the water line, but I will check that on the gas. I think they're just running the line directly to the school, and there's no cost to any of the other residents on the line. Though it does give you that option in the future to hook up to the
I
gas.
was really surprised that my water was that good because it tasted salty, but it came out 19 parts out of 100 instead of, it was really
Yeah.
good. So there's no reason for me to hook up.
No, there's absolutely no reason. None at all. If you've got good water, all of the green stripes are wells that have been tested and have water that is well below the limits that are needed to hook up to the line underneath the program. So what we've done here is basically, if you look at the bottom row, under estimated total payment per year, everyone's paying between 130 and one is now 400 is the highest per year. And if you look at the very bottom line, the town will be paying $79,000 per year for the water line.
Wow.
So we have absorbed the vast majority of this. And this is in consideration of, we understand this is difficult. We understand it's expensive. We understand people don't have a lot of money to spend, and that the school is going to be using the majority of the water. So this is about as cheap as you can get a water line by your house. Not that it makes some people happy, but there's absolutely no cheaper way to do this.
Well, I have the sewer line too. I got in on it 30 years ago when they put it in of October of 1990, and we
Right.
only paid like $2,500 because we were on the ground floor. My septic tank went, so
Yeah.
obviously we went to the sewer.
Yeah, that's good. And, the same thing, you can hook up to the sewer line if you want to. And usually people don't do that until their septic system fails, and it's a $15,000 to $20,000 bill to put a new septic in that probably won't meet code. So it makes sense to hook up to the sewer line. On this water line, and Greg had said this bears repeating. The costs for those houses that qualify, we will bring the line into your house. We'll have a backflow valve. We will put a pump in your house, so you will get between 40 and 60 pounds of pressure, which is a lot of pressure. And it's a complete turnkey. We come in, we hook the whole thing up, and then you have water off the water line. You won't have to add anything. You won't have to do anything more.
Suppose my well went dry. What happens then?
Then you could hook up to the water line.
And how much would it cost at that point?
No, that's hard to say, Anna. These costs are discounted by about 50%. So I would say it would be somewhere around $8,000 is what the cost is.
The other factor for people that hook up after we do this project,
Can't do it for 2 years.
they're going to have to dig the road up to get to that main. It is going to be more expensive than doing it, obviously, while we're doing this project,
Right.
especially if they're on the west side of the road, because the main's going to be on the east
Hello?
side, and they're going to have to cross the entire road, dig it up, and put it back together.
Yeah, so Greg, you got cut out a little bit, but it will be more expensive if you connect, whether you qualify or not. In the future, it will be more expensive to connect.
Well, I suppose I should have my well guy come and test and see.
We'll test it for free for you, Anna. If you come get the test kit from my office.
Oh, it's already been tested. My water has been tested.
Right.
But, like ask the well man if he thinks my well is in danger of drying up or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know if they could tell.
That's hard to tell, but the other thing is, like I just, my well pump went, right? It just died. It was giving me about 10 pounds of pressure, and I had to replace it 3 months ago. And just to replace that well pump down in the well was almost $3,000. So Anna, if your well pump is 20 years old, you might start thinking about it. You can ask
Maybe
your-
I will then. Maybe I will because I don't know. My well is 66 years old.
Yeah, the water usually doesn't go bad. It's the pumps that down in the bottom of them that can go bad. But I would, Anna, have your well guy come in and look at it and just give you an idea how old it is. You have the same guy, so he probably knows the system really well. Right?
From Rick Water System.
Yeah, right. No, they're pretty good too.
Hey,
Steve, how
Steve?
about
Yeah,
the
I'm
depth
gonna-
of it? Isn't the depth something that someone might want to check as well?
Yeah, typically
Well,
the
it's 200 feet. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
it varies around
Yeah,
town.
because
Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, because it was probably one of the first artesian wells. And
Yeah.
I know my father said it was 200 feet. I know that.
Okay, Greg, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, Steve, just from a project management perspective, if Anna's well has good quality water, the project's not going to include in its scope of work tying in, because we're under a special state contract. It's
Right.
our project's not going to include her tying in. She can subcontract with them or somebody else, but it won't be part of our project if she has good water.
Correct. But she might get a better deal since they're already on site doing other hookups. Right.
I'm just saying our project will not manage that. I mean, we're happy to help her, but it won't be part of our construction contract.
Right. You understand that, Anna?
Yeah, I understand that. That's why tomorrow I'm going to call Rick's water service and ask them about the pump. I mean, if it's like, if it was changed within the last 5 years, then I'm okay.
I know
What'd you say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
They usually last a pretty good time. Mine lasted 26 years.
I'll call them up tomorrow when I get home from work and see what I can find.
Okay, good.
You know, I just want them to, because, I want to cover myself both ways. I mean, if I have over a 20-year period and I have to pay $3,000 for a pump, then obviously it would make sense to get your water, the Aquarion.
Yep, maybe. Maybe that's a decision you would have to make yourself.
Yeah, well right now
we'll answer.
I need the information. I have to get the people from Rick. I think his name is Brett something or other. I have to have him come and see what he thinks, and I'll go from there.
Yeah, and then if you have any other questions, just give us a call. We're more than willing to answer your questions.
I know you've been very helpful. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Does anybody else have questions or concerns?
Hey, Steve.
Hello.
Steve.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's Neil Marcus. How are you?
Good, Neil Marcus. How are you?
Well, I'm good. I came in at the end of Greg's presentation. So this question's probably more for Greg. Greg, the United Jewish Center owns a building site at 86 Candle Lake Road. And that has no well at all, so we can't tell whether it'll have a good well or a bad well. But once you put a water line in, when they pull a building permit to build a house there, because the property is for sale, they're going to have to tie into this new water line. So will your project extend that to the house site as it would for a failed well?
You would have to pay for that hookup, Neil, when and if you built the house on the property.
Okay.
It's outside of this program.
Well, I'm saying I'm not sure that should be the case, quite honestly, because I think you're going to be required to hook in when you build a house because there's now a water line there within 200 feet.
I hadn't heard that, Neil, but we'll check that.
Yeah, it's an interesting point if Greg could find out, because quite honestly, that would make this a very attractive proposal if that were the case.
Yeah.
Neil, I have two comments. The first of all, we're very well aware of your property and the fact that it's undeveloped. So if you read the town ordinance, it is very specific on how you apply the assessment to an undeveloped parcel of land. And all those considerations were made when we decided that assessment for your parcel. The second comment I'll make is I am almost certain, not 100% certain, but almost certain that Aquarian Water will not allow anyone to tie a lateral tap into a main without it going to a service or putting in a meter by which they would have to pay a monthly user's fee.
Right.
Yeah, well, we could do that. I'm just saying, but because we're going, I think, to have to tie into that line, when I say we, the ultimate owner of the property who's building on it, it would make sense to just put it in as part of your project if it's included, because in reality, we're in the same position as the people with the polluted wells in that we'll be required to put it in.
Hello.
Oh, I disagree with that.
Can I speak?
I disagree with that.
Okay, but that's not the case. If we're still entitled to put a well in, that's different.
Yeah, Tom, they would still have the choice of putting a well in or hooking up, right?
That's correct, but the town does not have an obligation to pay for a hookup into a future home on that site.
Right.
Okay, but as long as we can still put a well in, because there's a question when your site is within 200 feet of a line, of a public water line, that the town may not issue a well permit. But as long as the town will do it, then there's no issue.
Well, we'd have to check on that, but even if that were true, Neil, the town still doesn't have an obligation to pay for a line into the property.
Oh, okay, and we just put it in the same category, Tom, as the people who have wells that have to be replaced.
That's not true. That's not true at all.
Well, you couldn't put a
You have
well.
a vacant piece of land that happens to be undeveloped and you'll be on the line and you'll have choices to make if and when that property is developed. The people with limits over the state guidelines, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, but I'm not sure we have choices. That's what we got to look at. If we get a well permit, then there's no issue.
But either way, Neil, you have to pay for a well or you have to pay for a hookup. Right? And then you just look at the cost, right?
Well, when you say pay for the hookup, you're talking about bringing the lateral across the road and into the site.
Bring it from the water line to the house that you build. You would have to pay for that.
Again, opening up Candlewood Lake Road
Right.
and running up. That would
Hold on. This is Art DePoy, 93 Kenwood Lake Road. If you look at your property, everyone around you's water is fine. There's a lot of people whose water is bad. You're looking to save money on a house that's not even built yet. We just put in a $14,000 well. That's bad. Oh, I have a hard time feeling for what you're trying to do here.
Well, everybody's allowed to do what they want to do and to ask questions, Art. Art, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I did. I tried to get in a few times. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But if I look at the even side, the other side of the road, you can tell the way the water flows. If he puts a well in, Neil, when you put a well, it's going to be fine. The two
I don't need to be on this.
Yeah, the two questions I had was one, you mentioned in the letter that Greg showed earlier, it talked about pressures and 700 gallons per minute, and it occurred to me there's no fire hydrants at all. When
There are going to be two fire hydrants in front of the school.
And according to the fire marshal's the fire department's requirement, there will also be, I believe, I'm not sure, it's every 500 feet from the school all the way down to where we tie in.
That's good. That's good news because I know the insurance rates will go down.
They will.
Yeah, every 5
will.
feet. Very good. And the numbers that I see in the spreadsheet, these are estimates based because you haven't gone out to bid yet. So the actual cost is unknown.
Correct. But Art, we've built in a contingency in case we hit ledge, other contingency just to make sure that we're covered. We're pretty comfortable that unless the bids come back, now the cost of steel has been rising, but we're pretty comfortable that the bids are going to come in near where we think they are. If they don't, if they come in 10% higher, then obviously you would pay 10% more.
Right.
If they come in 10% lower, you would pay 10% less. But we
Understood.
think this is the upper limit, Art.
Okay, good. And I apologize, Neil. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Everybody gets to yell at lawyers, don't they?
No, I'm listening and I'm thinking about. I could see if you look at the addresses that have the high chlorides in the water, you could see where the water came from and how it affected people. And like Anna, who was talking for a while there, she's very lucky her well is good. She happens to be upstream of the natural water flow from the big cool driveway.
Yeah, and actually my lot is right next to hers. So
Yeah,
And
so
you,
you're
you probably will have a good well if you drill one.
if
So-
I'm allowed to.
Art,
That's my only
Art, do you have any other questions, Art?
No, thank you.
Okay, does anybody else want to raise a concern?
I do. Can you hear me?
Sure,
Mhm.
who's this?
It's Rachel Edwards at 99 Candlewood.
Hi, Rachel Edwards.
Hi. So I had my water tested in January, and my sodium was at 200, my chloride at 360. And then I had it retested recently through the town, and I sent it to Techno wherever in New Milford. And I haven't gotten the results yet, but I called earlier because I knew we had our meeting, and the young lady said, well, it looks like your chloride has improved. So my first question is, how does that happen?
It changes constantly throughout the year, depending on the water levels, it just,
Rain.
many things affect it.
Okay, because I bought this house 5 years ago, and the VA, I'm a former Marine, and they almost didn't approve me. And I've had my water retested every year. I have UV bulbs, I have filters, I have everything. My water is unfortunately not the best. And so I was just curious when I called, and she said it has improved, like how that has miraculously happened.
Well, we'll ask Hydrotech for a little more technical answer as to why that would happen. But Rachel, can you send us, do you have the results of your tests over the past few
No,
years?
I called. And no, unfortunately, I called because I knew we were going to have this meeting. I called earlier. She said she would email you guys and then CC me, but she has not. So I
No,
was
we haven't.
looking at my old. You haven't received it either, I take it.
No, we haven't. What I was asking is, can we see your previous tests?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was from Raymond Sullivan. He has a copy of it. And then I have an independent water testing company from 2 years before that. And then I have the VA when I first purchased the home in 2015. So I have a history of showing, that the water is not the best.
Can you send that to me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure. Where would I send that?
Send it firstselectman@brookfieldct.gov.
Okay. Is that on any of these documents? Let me just.
No, I don't think it is, but you just type in First Selectman or Dunn, DUNN, @brookfieldct.gov. And if you have trouble with it, just call my office in the morning and we'll work it out.
Okay, perfect. I'll definitely call in the morning. Okay, so then that I'll send that. And then the other thing is, correct me if I was wrong, you were saying that the monthly water bill can be up to $60 a month?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
With all the assumptions I gave, that's assuming 2.7 people per household
Yeah.
and a 1-inch water line into your home. So that there's a lot of assumptions. If you put a smaller water line in, there's actually the part of the fee is actually less. So it could be much lower than that, or it could be a little higher.
Yeah.
Again-
Okay. So
again-
basically, like a family of 5 is greater than 2.7, whatever that even means.
Yep. It's an average
Okay.
house.
That's about 60% more.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Rachel, they have fixed fees and, per gallon fees or per 1,000-gallon fees. So we're just giving you a range.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
have 5, you'll probably be at the upper range, I would think.
Okay. No, it's fine. I'm from Long Island, so basically my mother would pay like, $20 or $30 a month for what. I was just curious what that meant. All right, I'll send you the prior reports, and that was basically my own question. Thank you. I don't think I have any more.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it. Does anybody else like to make comment? Hearing none. Oh, Greg, you want to make a comment?
Steve, I actually have something I'd like to ask you.
Yeah.
For the residents that aren't on this call, and even for those who are, I'd like to know how they're going to communicate with Aquarian and how they're going to inform us what they decided so we can move this design along.
Yeah, we should, I think we can act as an ombudsman in a way for them. We will be, the Board of Selectmen is meeting tomorrow to make a final decision on this. And then we will be sending a letter to each of the residents on the line. And we will give them the Aquarian information and encourage them to contact Aquarian either way. We've decided we do not want to hook up to the water line, or we do want to. And then we'll ask Aquarian, obviously through your offices, to keep us apprised of who's doing what, because when we go out to bid, we want to have this as part of the, as one of the items that the contractors will bid on, right?
Right. And it's only going to be the orange lines here that will be included in the project for those that decide to tie in.
Right, for our
Okay.
program,
Good.
right? Any other questions? Tom, did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Sue, do you have any concerns, issues, anything you'd like to share?
I don't, not at this time.
Okay, great. So not hearing any more comments, I want to thank everyone for coming on.
Steve, let me just clarify Greg's question.
Sure.
What is our next step? We're waiting for correspondence from you guys?
Yes. So we are, the Board of Selectmen is going to meet tomorrow night to make a final determination on the water line. And then we will be sending everyone on the line a letter and asking you to get in touch with Aquarian. We'll get you the contact details and all of that, and inform Aquarian and the town if you do or do not want to sign up for the water line, hook up to the water line.
Hold on, go ahead.
Steve?
Yes.
Hello, it's Cheryl. How are you?
Good, Cheryl.
Just a question. The people, obviously the people who are orange had their wells tested and the wells tested high. The
Right.
people who were in green had their wells tested and they turned out to be within range. The people
Correct.
who are neither orange or green, does that mean they did not participate?
Correct.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
okay.
We wish everybody had tested. We still have free tests if people want to get their water tested. But there
Well,
is going to be a hard deadline. Greg, you said January 22nd, right?
That's my arbitrary deadline, just to meet, just again, the goal, I'm working backwards. We want to have this line in service before the winter freeze next year when the asphalt plants close. So we're kind of working backwards from that timeline.
So if anybody's talking to your neighbors and you're having a conversation, we're more than willing to test their water. Okay? Anything else, Cheryl?
Now you're on. Say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, going once, going twice. Anybody have a further comment or question? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Sue?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that. All those selectmen in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. So thank you all very much for joining us. And please, if you want to, you can join in on the meeting tomorrow night, the Board of Selectmen meeting, and we'll be back in touch with you within the next week or so. Okay?
Tomorrow night's meeting is at 5:30,
Right. that's
if
about
anyone's
5:30.
interested. Right. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.